Hello from the Global Legal Hackathon 2018 Final Round Gala here in New York City. I am your host, Alex Muncey, and we're here on the road with Legal Talk Network. And we're back. Thank you very much for joining us on the road. I'm here today with George Beaton, with Michal Paprocki, and also Leo, Global Legal Hackathon. We've just had the finalists, the winners, announced, and it's been a fantastic opportunity to see some of the innovations that have come out. Could I start with you, Michal? Could you just I'll sort of go around, and it would be good to sort of get a little bit of background and explain who you are.
So I'm actually representing the technology industry. I don't have legal background as such, but I'm quite fascinated by what's happening here in the legal sector, because it's what happened to finance quite some time ago, and I see that the legal industry is like catching up or moving exactly in the same direction. We are on the verge of quite a big transformation into digital, which makes this event quite a valuable one. So I'm learning quite a lot from that, and also exploring some similarities between financial institutions and legal services, and how the fintechs or how technology could help it.
Okay, that's quite interesting. I mean, George, you're obviously from Australia, and we've seen a lot of quite strong tech innovations, sort of where there's been a confluence of legal technology, and specifically with blockchain in Australia. I'm thinking of the Australian Stock Exchange being one of the first enterprises to really implement blockchain.
Indeed. So I'm not a technologist nor much interested in technology per se. And I'll illustrate that. We've just finished a survey. Our company mainly does survey work amongst clients and law firms and other parts of the legal ecosystem. And we've just finished a survey of the larger corporate and commercial clients, of their views of and expectations of innovation. And when asked right at the start of the survey, what does innovation mean to you? 15% of respondents mentioned technology. So 85% something other than technology per se. And when you look into those 85%, the biggest item by far was communication under this rubric of innovation. And so to us, the clients speaking here are saying it's not technology, but what technology enables, facilitates, or replaces from a human perspective in terms of benefits derived by consumers of legal services. And that's my major interest in the revolution that's taking place in the business models of how legal services are delivered.
Oh, that's really interesting. So you're seeing very much sort of clients pushing the direction of where
absolutely
law firms then having to respond and almost
another stunning fact from the survey, when asked, can you name one innovative law firm, 25% said, I can't. And of those that could, they really struggled in the majority. And it's an invitation that's wide open to the private branch of the profession to get innovating and to engage collaboratively with clients in that innovation. And that's why I find this whole evening and this whole phenomenon of the hackathon so exciting. It's because of the collaborative efforts that we saw here tonight.
Oh, fantastic. And Leo, just I'd like to bring you into this. I mean, in terms of what you've seen today, sort of what's impressed you most, or which teams really stood out to you, and what have you really been drawn to and impressed by?
Well, okay, first, thank you so much for having me here. You know, it's a long trip from Argentina to here, but I'm really pleased to be here. I'm somewhere in between Michael and George, you know. Before I studied law, I understand law or the legal system as a whole, as the incentive method we have as a society. What we choose to praise, what we choose to punish, what behaviors we want our society to have. And I find technology the only or one of the few tools that have the capability of enforcing massive or collective change. So there in between, it's where I try to get specialized. I've been working for the past years. I co-founded some blockchain company that are actually doing some work in this area. And from the journey today, what got my eye was there's a lot of people that actually see or share the vision, you know. Some of the teams, such as Reveal You, that's one of the winners, they tackled a very hot issue right now, which is data management. decoding law, it's all about getting law understandable for every regular Joe in the street. Even the teams that didn't win, for instance, there was a Brazilian team, Apresente Se, they had developed a platform that allows the judicial system to significantly reduce the cost of handling some low-risk penalties, So it's very comforting to see that in different places in the world, so different cultures and so different backgrounds, we all share this very same vision.
So I heard mentioned earlier today that we're seeing sort of two emerging ships, big ships on the water of AI and blockchain. But my big takeaway from this, sort of in addition to that, is just the fact that there's such a growing ecosystem and that firms are all kinds of different firms, whether they're technology companies, whether they're legal firms, whether they're in-house law departments at companies. People are widening their network and really sort of tapping into different avenues, collaborating with competitors or even big four accountancy companies. This seems to be a trend that's really accelerating. Do you see that in each of the regions that you're based in? Is that something that you're also getting a sense of?
Yes, I can confirm that. So I'm a firm believer of platform thinking, and I believe in the legal sector we have quite a lot of inefficiencies in the sense that you have like ordinary people or the litigants that have quite an asymmetry of knowledge, and they're often helpless or, let's say, searching for some solutions. While on the other hand, you have a lot of, let's say, traditional law firms or pro bono cases that find it increasingly difficult to match the demand and the supply. So if I look at platform economy, and actually it's no wonder that a lot of the solutions presented today were focusing on the fact on how to get everyone together and how to reduce these inefficiencies. So you don't have to come up with something like extremely smart, like robotics, AI, or blockchain. Those were actually underrepresented teams of today. What was quite clear to me is that there is a strength in some simple solutions that you can instantly get into the market. Then you also see that the needs are quite universal. So a lot of the solutions that we investigated actually have the truly global potential in the sense that you can easily roll them out because the model is scalable in terms of the need that is quite fundamental and also the revenue stream that could make it affordable. So I believe this is the main takeaway for me, that platforms are the name of the game.
Just picking up on the themes, I think the distinction here tonight, which the judges certainly found quite difficult, between public and private was artificial. To me, this is all about democratization, access to justice, whether you're a large corporate or you're an impoverished individual. It is about affording the opportunity for justice and access to it. And what we're seeing here is, on the one hand, this, and it's particularly, I think, driven by the youth of the teams and the idealism and the professionalism of access to justice and democratization. But on the other hand, we are seeing, and Michael just referred to this, the reduction of friction in the supply chains, the removal of inefficiencies, and basically the reduction of transaction costs, whether it be speed or cost. I think there are two big things that weren't addressed. If we look at what wasn't here, I think the courts, whilst there were aspects of the courts, it wasn't the courts per se, which I see as enormous drag on the ecosystem, and the law schools. One of the 14 teams touched on law schools and the opportunity for law schools. And when I look at inertia, I see courts and law schools, two major institutions in the profession, still living in the last century to be kind.
Well, that's really interesting, and it's just sort of with lawyers in general. Even 5 years ago, but especially 10 years ago, just the term innovation, a lot of legal professionals would have sort of looked at you sideways, and it's strange that hasn't quite filtered down into the legal education yet. And I think that's a good point to touch on. Leo, just in terms of sort of what your takeaways were. When sort of over the next few days, what are the things that are going to linger with you and the things that really resonated with you?
I believe we are pretty much aligned there. Friction is definitely an issue, but in my view, it's an understandable issue, it's unrealistic to hope regulation to keep up with innovation. Innovation always comes before regulation. The trick And basically, as George very well stated out, it's to have the different stakeholders in the industry understand this and act consequently, ranging from law schools to regulators to policymakers. If we get all the players to grasp this concept and to implement different strategies to at least shorten the bridge, I think that we will see a legal industry much more user-friendly and which will add much more value than what we are used to.
So just for our listeners, I mean, before I close out today, if any of our listeners wanted to get in touch or follow what you're doing, do you have a Twitter handle or any way of that our listeners would be able to stay in touch with what you're doing?
Yes, well, in my case, you can tweet me. It's at Leo Elduayen as my name and surname. I don't know if that's going to be public in the website. You can public if people want to follow me, or you can shoot me an email to leo@koibanx.com.
For me, it's LinkedIn's the easiest way.
Okay. And Michal?
I'm also a bit traditional on LinkedIn, but you could also email me at michal.paprocki@ing.com.
Well, I'd like to thank our guests, Michal, George, and Leo, for joining us today. I also want to thank our listeners for tuning in. We've reached the end of On the Road for today's episode. And if you've liked what you heard, please find and rate us in Apple Podcasts. And we'll see you next time for another episode of On the Road with Legal Talk Network.
If you'd like more information about what you've heard today, please visit LegalTalkNetwork.com. Subscribe via iTunes and RSS. Find us on Twitter and Facebook, or download our free Legal Talk Network app in Google Play and iTunes. The views expressed by the participants of this program are their own and do not represent the views of, nor are they endorsed by, Legal Talk Network, its officers, directors, employees, agents, representatives, shareholders, and subsidiaries. None of the content should be considered legal advice. As always, consult a lawyer.